real internet. It's Paul. It's Matt. The Dork Lords. We're here talking about Umbrella Academy Season 2, Episodes 1 and 2.
You thought it was never going to happen.
Well, right. It's been a while. Anyway, we did cover Season 1 ages ago. I kind of had to go back and reacquaint myself with what we were talking about. So I have done that. Yay for that. Yay! I just watched us, so I'm good. I'm ready. Okay.
And you're still here. Wow.
And I'm still, I survived. So what we're doing is we're going through and just watching 2 episodes at a time and then talking about them. So I have only watched episodes 1 and 2.
So have
Paul, and you have as well. Okay, very good. So
that way I can't be like, oh, really? You think that's going to happen?
You're always the one who's like, oh, that's a great theory, Matt. Totally stupid, but no, great. I'm glad you had it. Okay. So now I can
be just as stupid as you.
Exactly. Welcome to Stupid Town. We open episode 1 with the team time traveling back to the 60s, although they're separated from each other in time, and apparently they cause an apocalypse in 1963. That's terrible. We end episode 2 with our newly discovered Reginald Hargreaves, the father figure, stabbing Diego and heading out with his young, but I assume still super intelligent chimpanzee companion Pogo.
Yes.
And that's the bracketed area that we're covering here tonight. If you are new to this show, you should probably go back and watch season 1.
Or
there's a whole lot
on us.
Or actually, you could watch our recaps, and actually, they're probably just as long as watching the actual series, so that's fine. But anyway,
listen to me.
Listen to Paul. We've got our dysfunctional superhero team of 7 individuals. Number 1 is Luther. He's the tank of the group.
Yes.
Number 2 is Diego. Diego is he's Mr. Knives. As they said in here, it was like. I think Klaus says,
yes.
Think Batman, but aim lower.
Yeah.
So he's the poor man's Batman. Number 3 is Allison. Allison would be, if you were turning it into a D&D style RPG, she's your mage. She can say, I heard a rumor, and make you do stuff. Number 4 is Klaus. Klaus can commune with the dead. Number 5 is 5. 5 has perhaps the biggest power set. He can time travel and he can teleport at will.
He can transport to space and time.
Space and time. 6 is Ben.
He's the TARDIS.
Yeah, right. 6 is Ben. Ben has died, but he is now a ghost. He's got some kind of Lovecraftian tentacle powers.
Yes.
Of his own. And 7 is Vanya, otherwise known as the White Violin. And at the end of season 1, she was revealed to be our big villain. And then as the rest of the group tries to stop her to avert an apocalypse in 2019, the apocalypse still happens, but they manage to time travel at the last second to avoid being killed themselves. And that's kind of where we ended season 1.
Yes.
So, actually, I went back in watching our Season 2 prediction video.
Yes.
I think we checked a few boxes already, even though we've only watched episodes 1 and 2. One thing we were hoping is that at the end of Season 1, when they time travel, it very specifically shows them de-aging. Yeah. Kind of like 5 is. So they're like, I'm an adult, now I'm a kid. And so we were hoping that perhaps the age-reducing effects wouldn't last too long, like they wouldn't be Muppet babies for the whole season. And check, they just push that aside. They just retcon that thing. It looks like because there's no I'm little kid Diego. So there was that. We also assumed that they would be going back to the time of the Kennedy assassination. Because in the comics, which I've not read, but I've heard about, the second series is called Dallas. And in fact, yes, it takes place during the Kennedy assassination. So it made sense that they'd be going there. Although, notably, the show is very different from the comics itself.
Yes.
It pays homage to them without being an exact replica of the comics.
Yeah, I was listening to some other more knowledgeable podcasts talk about how it ends differently, and I was like, oh, geez.
Also, we hoped that the season would further explore Reginald Hargreaves. Because if you remember in season 1, there is a scene that takes place in the past, and we see him on some either alien world or an alternate Earth.
Yes.
With rocket ships and stuff. And so we theorized it might be an alternate Earth because it had so many Earth-like qualities to it. But in any case, we were theorizing, hey, I'd like to know a little bit more about his backstory. I think we can say a check to that as well. We've already been introduced to him, and he was hanging out at the Kennedy assassination.
Yes.
There's some info that we know. All right, so there's that. Check. We figured that Hazel, the commission agent, and Agnes, his true love, did escape the apocalypse, and we thought perhaps they would be some part of season 2. It's a check minus. Agnes has died, and yeah, for like 2 minutes, Hazel shows up just long enough to save Five's life, and then die himself.
Yeah.
Although
he's a time traveler, so
exactly
might not
with
have
time
seen the
travel,
last of him or his
or Agnes.
Wife. Yes.
Yeah. I'd like to see Hazel again.
Oh, yeah.
I would be kind of disappointed if they brought him back just to kill him off.
I was just rewatching the Mindhunters.
Oh, sure. Right. Who plays the serial killer.
That's right. The first one, the one that cracks it for them.
Yeah. No, he's a great job in that.
He's a great actor.
And then we also theorized, we don't put a check on this yet, but we'll just wait and see. We thought we'd perhaps see some of the other, I believe it would be 36 special children. Remember, there were, I think it was 43 children born on a specific time, specific day.
Yes.
Reginald adopted 7 of them, but that leaves 36 other ones who apparently have powers.
You did the math. Good
yeah,
on you.
I did. Yeah, I'm great at that. So anyway, perhaps we theorized that perhaps there'd be someone with special powers that hanging out in the background.
Yeah.
Kind of like with the boys, where it looks like in season 2 we've got other heroes with powers.
Yes,
so
yes.
Anyway, I thought we threw out some good little predictions there. What we end up with is the commission. If you remember, the commission was trying to keep the apocalypse happening. Basically, they're trying to keep time, I think, going as it should be, perhaps, is what the idea of, like, well, it's fated that the apocalypse should happen, so that's what we're trying to keep it on track.
I suppose. I mean, I always suspected more nefarious motivations, like, that would really help us out, having that apocalypse.
I see. Okay. Right. That'll save us some bucks in the market or something. Yeah. Okay. So, for whatever reason, the commission was against our heroes, especially Five, who used to work for the commission. So, Hazel and Cha-Cha were sent by the commission in season 1. They were our assassins trying to kill it. Well, they've been replaced by the Swedes. So there's like 3. I thought at first they were just like really old guys, but like they were timeless.
Yeah, no,
but they're called the Swedes.
They're just very pale.
Very pale. They are not subtle. They walk around in the open with shotguns. Yeah. They're not particularly bright. We see this scene where they're throwing knives at each other, and the guy just throws a knife into his buddy's leg, and they're like, "Oh, okay, you lose."
Yeah.
It's kind of tough to imagine they wouldn't end up dead or in jail because they don't seem like they're that. I mean, they're ruthless.
They are,
but they're not particular. They're just like a, they don't have subtlety.
They don't. Yeah, or strategy.
So we have our 7 show up, as I mentioned, in different parts of time. And they take up these different roles. So we've got Luther is Jack Ruby's bodyguard.
Yes.
And we know that he knows it's Jack Ruby, and he knows that Jack Ruby is important because he's like, that Jack Ruby, yep, I like him. Okay, good, all right, you're good. Diego is in a mental institution because he's got a hero complex, which is great because he's, kind of genuinely a hero. Allison is married to a civil rights activist named Raymond.
Yes. Not Elvis Costello.
Not Elvis Costello. There will likely, I assume, be some kind of a reckoning with Luther, just because obviously Luther and Allison were an item.
Sure.
And at some point when they come back together, I assume she'll still have feelings for Luther. Right. There might be a pull there. Klaus was from San Francisco, and we see he's got this follower of his that traveled and found him and is in jail. Is he the leader of like a cult or maybe a self-help group? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I couldn't tell. He seemed like he had followers, but I was a little confused. And he's journeying to Dallas. Ben travels with him because, well, I think he needs Klaus's powers to
manifest,
be relevant to manifest. Yes. Yeah. 5 shows up at the end of the world again, and as we mentioned, Hazel sends him back 10 days. So 5's trying to save the world again, much like he did in season 1.
Yeah, I mean, to me, the thing that struck me about that first thing is how they're all working together, and a number of them are exhibiting powers more than we've seen before.
Yes, I was going to get to that. Yes, agreed. Right, good point. Then they are, hey, they're working as a team.
Yeah.
They finally did it and destroyed the world.
Right. But, I feel like in the first series, though, they kind of set you up for like, oh, the world's going to end. And so every other episode was moving to that end. And so here they, boom, started off again. Oh, it's going to end again. And now you have to see how they got to that point.
So Vanya, the last she has no memory.
No.
She is taken in by a family. They've got a mute son, Harlan. He's got his parents, Sissy and Carl. Carl is a jerky alcoholic salesman. Vanya's looking after Harlan, and if I had to guess, she seems like she's starting a relationship with Sissy.
Yeah.
I think we're seeing some sparks flying there between the two of them.
Sure we are.
So that's where that goes. So you've got the situation where you've got time travel and amnesia. Those are 2 plot devices that
yes.
I'm usually not crazy about. Hey, I enjoyed Avengers Endgame, which uses time travel, so it can be done well, but it can also just be a cheap plot hack where you're like, oh, you got amnesia, oh, you traveled back in time and redid everything.
Again, from the first season.
Yep.
Certainly Vanya forgot that she had powers.
and in fact, the title of the first episode is right back where we started.
Yeah.
They play that song, which is from the 60s, so it's fun little tie-in. But you get the idea that the show knows that they're being repetitive, right? That they're like, hey, we're doing this again. And with amnesia, it's like, so Vanya spent all of season 1 not realizing her powers because she'd been mind wiped.
We didn't know until the end of the season that she'd been mind wiped, and deceptively is the most powerful, even though it seemed like she had no powers.
Right, and so she uses her powers for essentially 1 episode.
Yes.
And now she's completely out of her powers again. So it's like, okay. Well, and you've got Allison, right, who she's basically refusing to use her powers. That's the whole thing. Is like, oh, there's a moment she could use her powers. Oh, she's not using her powers.
Yes.
So she's choosing not to use them. So you have this theme of people who are powerful not using their powers.
Yes.
And it did remind me, maybe I've mentioned this before, but it reminded me of one of my favorite literary characters is Rincewind. He is a goof wizard in Terry Pratchett's Discworld series.
Oh, phew! I thought you were saying Lord of the Rings.
It's not Lord of the Rings. This is a satirical Lord of the Rings, perhaps. Anyway, but
thanks for the warning.
So Rincewind is, as I say, he's kind of a goof, but he only knows 1 spell. It happens to be the most powerful spell in the world. It could probably destroy the world if uttered, and it kind of has a sentience of its own, so it wants to be spoken. So he spends his entire life trying not to say the 1 spell he knows. Hence, he's just like a goof like anybody else. So it's kind of like this, where you're like, they're not goofs, but they're like, I'm just normal because I can't use my powers for whatever reason. When that first action shot where we see them all doing their powers and working together, they do have bigger powers.
When 5 goes from where they were to where they are, although it's in the future. But they all travel back in time, and the last person to sort of arrive is 5, and he arrives when they're all together fighting.
And they're fighting the Russians? Is that
yes, they're fighting the Russians invading the United States, which is a tip to 5 that something's wrong.
Right. What could it be? And then
wait a minute. The Russians never invaded the U.S.
Or did they? Maybe it was just covered up. I've never been to Dallas. Why? Okay, anyway. No. But yes, we see them acting in concert, and their powers are magnified. The one in particular, who I think her powers are now much like the comics that I've heard, is Allison. So we see Allison say, "I heard a rumor that'll blow your mind," and then these three guys' heads explode.
Yes.
So she is not just the Purple Man. In season 1, it felt like she was kind of the Purple Man. If I say I heard a rumor, I'll mind control you.
Right.
But now she can warp reality by saying, "I heard a rumor," insert thing, it happens. So that's it's much more powerful, frankly.
Right. Also, I guess there's no natural way, unless you're, buying into sort of the spontaneous combustion theory.
Oh, in other words, it's because I would think if she had the powers that she had in season 1, I would think if she said, "I heard a rumor that'll blow your mind," they'd probably shoot themselves in the head or something. Or,
right.
Be like...
Right, but, I'm just saying that...
maybe their corpuscles were
yes.
"Must react!"
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah. We don't know. That certainly would be...
It's difficult to voluntarily make your head explode. I'll just say that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
But, she's controlling them, and if they're in this world, some way that someone could spontaneously blow their brains up, like in Scanner...
I got you. All right, good point. Because I was thinking it would be the same thing as if she said, "I heard a rumor that tractors are werewolves." Suddenly a tractor would go and turn into a creature. She could do that,
right?
Perhaps.
But you could, but we haven't seen that, right? It's
we
people.
haven't.
And so their bodies did something, even if it doesn't seem medically plausible. You might say she's warping reality, and maybe she is, but she's still directing it through people.
Yeah, maybe it's because the person has to hear "I heard a rumor" and take it in.
Yeah, because I think, didn't somebody fight her? Or maybe that's another one where people close their ears or something.
Yeah, or maybe if you don't speak the language. I don't know, maybe if get only Russian speakers.
It's hold on a second, let me get the right app. I heard a rumor, and then the phone blows up.
The phone blows up. But anyway, so she is very overpowered, hence the reason she's not using her powers, because it would probably make all of the plot points very easy to solve.
Well, that's the thing that occurred to me. It's I think it's a good dramatic device that certainly in a relationship she doesn't feel that she can mention that, because it really destroyed her previous relationship.
Right, right. We have this backstory where she was married and she has a kid.
Yeah.
She used her powers seemingly innocently, but she manipulated the kid.
Yeah.
You're sleepy, I think is what she did.
Right. And so the father was like, "No, you're not going to be manipulating her anymore." So that is, I think, a certainly legitimate dramatic reason not to do it. But the thing that occurred to me, though, when he was being taken away by the cops, is you could be like, "I heard a rumor that you treated him fairly and didn't hurt him."
That's what I was thinking she was, but again, if she uses it at all...
That doesn't tip your hand too much. It's not like, wait a minute, why are you doing that? Why are you letting him go? Or why are you turning on your partner and shooting him? No, you could have just been a little careful.
Exactly.
Plausible.
Much like the scene when they're having the meeting at her shop, and then the landowner comes in and is like, "What are you guys doing here?" She could have said, "Hey, I heard a rumor that you were headed out to dinner with your friends." "Oh, got to go out to dinner with my buddies."
Yeah.
Whatever.
Yep.
But I think in her mind she's like, if I use it at all, much like I did with my kid, it's a slippery slope, which I get. That makes sense.
I get it too.
The thing that was a little I was like, really? Was the timing of when she punches the jerky landowner guy.
Yes.
Because it's like her husband has just said, "Hey everybody, honor and dignity. Let's make sure we have no violence. It's really important that we rise above it, and we're not violent at all. They'll look for any opportunity. Oh, there's someone at the door. It's like if it had been the next day or hours later.
That she has to try to remind herself. I mean, certainly because I think they're also establishing how much she's been raised in the future.
At the end of season 1, Vanya kind of cut her vocal cords, so she couldn't talk. And so when we saw her come back in time, that very first shot, we see she's got the bandage still on her throat, but somehow she healed, or maybe going back in time healed her, or and it also seemed to increase her powers apparently. So who knows? Maybe we'll see something about that. Maybe I don't know if there's a reason for that, or if it's just like they're like, this is. I mean, we still through have the magic of time travel.
Some time. Well, I guess we don't. We only have like a week now.
Yeah, there's like the end of the world is in less than 10 days. I think. There's also the kind of plot device of coincidence.
Sure.
I feel like what they're trying to suggest is that fate is constantly pushing the apocalypse, perhaps, but because you've got these things where. Like Luther's the bouncer at a club. He bounces this guy who happens to be being picked up by Vanya.
Right.
And the guy drops his wallet, so now Luther knows the address of Vanya. Klaus is in jail, and his cell joins the guy who's married to Allison, and they have a conversation. Allison sees another guy in the prison who's got the hello, goodbye hands, like realizes Klaus is around. Right. Like, there's a lot of coincidence that they're kind of using to put these characters in the same universe, which, if it was simply just a plot device hack, it would feel like lazy writing. But I feel like there's an element of, with the commission as well, there's like forces at work that are trying to constantly push these folks together. I don't know. What do you, is that come to mind at all?
That's possible. I mean, the reason why I was so particular about what the commission, what their motivations are, is that they're pretty determined by pretty ruthless means to accomplish something, and so rather than thinking, they're just protecting the timeline,
you're right. They're very ruthless about it. Right. They could do a lot less violent means.
So to me that suggests that they have ill intent. That somehow they benefit from that. So if you were to see something more about that would certainly make me feel happier about what's going on. That maybe they're trying to accomplish something by having society end the way that it does.
Gotcha. So we do have the handler, is what she's called, is back. She was shot in the head by Hazel in season 1, but she survived. And she's been demoted. She's been demoted for failing to take out the Umbrella Academy, essentially. And now she's got a fishbowl head boss, which is kind of a fun little.
Yeah, that was fun.
In a world of sci-fi, I'm cool with it. It looks neat. He's smoking in his aquarium. That was just kind of fun. There's a lot of humor that works, I think, in these 2 episodes. Sure. I mean, there's like little conversations that are pretty funny.
Yes.
Like the writers have a good comedic sense, and they could overdo it pretty hard here, but I feel like they've got a fun. It's campy, but not so campy that they spin off into an unsatisfying absurdity. Yeah.
Yes.
So the show is quality. It's got the production quality is really high, and it's engaging and really entertaining to watch. So the handler's been demoted.
Yes.
The umbrella handle, and she's not taking it well. No. She's in this you got to go through training.
Right.
So what if I had to guess? I would say that she's likely to try to get back in the good graces of the commission by taking it upon herself to take out the Umbrella Academy folks.
Yes.
That's probably my guess. She has reasons to do it. She wants to get her promotion.
Yes.
And on that note, I gotta say, I don't think it's much of a prediction, but Lila, Diego's companion in the
crazy lady,
the crazy lady, she's a plant. I mean, she's good at combat. She can hotwire a car. She doesn't seem that crazy, and she's shadowing Diego like crazy all the time. Okay,
I mean, maybe you're right. You know that they've hit it well. I guess. I mean,
I'm just saying if she's a plant,
I'm appreciating that. If it, if it keys into that, it's just kind of weird. If I would think then it would have to be a different force other than the commission, because their thing is kill them.
That was my go-to, was to say of all of the obvious institutions, it would be the commission. My reasoning for that would be, you're right. Why did she just kill Diego then?
Yeah.
My thought would be perhaps she's going to try to, because her mission is not just kill Diego, it's kill the whole group. So she wants to use Diego to get back to the group and then kill them.
I mean, you might say that maybe, if Diego's actions of trying to stop the assassination of Kennedy, if that's the precursor to the events that
good point
lead to the apocalypse, then you would want that to happen, and once that happens, you'd stop it. I think it's more. My feeling is that's not the case. That it seems like in the first season there were times when there were people who had different agendas or different things, and at some point they get killed so they can provide drama.
Okay, so maybe Lila might be.
And at this time, they still have fridges, so there's plenty of opportunity.
Fridge the girl. Yeah, you're right. He had a love interest fridged, I believe, back in season 1.
That's right.
But that's a good point too. I think in that when 5 arrives and right as the apocalypse is happening, there's some comment on the news, I think, about JFK. I get the impression that JFK is still alive.
Yeah,
that he's done something. So we can guess that
when Diego lands, he sees the telecast of JFK. Yeah. That's what tips him off.
So the point being that perhaps it is in fact saving JFK starts the apocalypse. Perhaps
it might be
the idea.
Who knows? I mean, my guess is that they don't succeed at that and they do something else. But we'll see what happens.
Okay. So in other words, maybe the idea is to save the world, you have to let Kennedy get assassinated. Kind of like there was that very famous Star Trek episode. Kirk has to basically let this woman get killed so that she doesn't
die. So that
the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few. The second episode is called the Frankel Footage. Yeah. It's like the Zapruder film.
Sure.
Because it shows the day of the events of the Kennedy assassination, and our friends 5, who's got this there's this conspiracy theorist guy who's been happy to not happy, but oh my God, it's all true.
Yes.
Is way into the Umbrella Academy. Anyway, they see that there's our dad, Reginald.
Yes.
Is at the site. So
on the grassy knoll.
That they look him up in the phone book.
Yes.
They're like, here's a database with one search capability. So anyway, they find the DS Umbrella company. They go. That's where Diego gets in this fight. We have a fun moment there where two interesting moments with 5.
Yes.
One where he sees a bunch of mannequins. He's like, "What are you doing?" But it's a callback to him when he was he had a relationship with a mannequin. And then he sees a very young Pogo. And it's like, Pogo's alive again because Vanya killed Pogo and old Pogo in season 1. So it's like, the person who raised us, raised me. Yes. Pogo doesn't know any of that.
No.
So
it's pre-intelligence.
And there's a big fight scene between Diego and Reginald. We see Reginald is every bit the match of Diego. Yes. Although Diego's, giving him what for, and at the last second he's like, he realizes it's his dad.
Yes.
And Reginald says, amateurs, and stabs him. So at this point, apparently, Reginald has no... I think this is him adopting the kids.
Yes.
Yeah, in fact, it has to be. So he hasn't done any of that yet.
Yeah.
And so he's just like...
I thought you were talking about when 5 and Diego meet... they both confront Elliot after that, and they're like, "You want to take him, or should I?" You know?
Oh yeah, yeah. He's got the gun on him, and he's like,
"I'll take him." It's like, that was very fun. I thought it was a good sort of way that he did it, like where he said, "Oh," and he just sort of diverted attention just a second to talk to Lila, and then boom, just enough time to get in there and knock him out.
Unlike Allison and Vanya, Five uses his powers.
Yes.
A lot.
Yes.
He bamps around a lot, which is fun. I like that when he lets Diego attempt to pick the lock.
Yes.
And he's like, okay, you've had enough time. Boom, boom, there you go. Those are fun scenes. I like Five a lot.
Five's like my favorite character in the whole show.
Yeah, and he is obviously the driving force.
Yes.
Because he's the one who's like, we have to save the world. Yes. I got to figure this out.
Yes.
And again, we do see, the family is still obviously very dysfunctional, and so any chance you get for them to be functional, I go, okay, they're not gonna be functional, and so that's what I'm waiting for that now. Ben kind of screws over Klaus at some point, and Five screws over Diego, and so you just see these moments. Very touching scene with Luther and Vanya.
Yes, that was. Yeah, that was.
So Luther is feeling very guilty, as he would, even though
he also feels driven to stop the threat that Vanya poses.
He, in some ways, hates Vanya's actions, not Vanya, but like she killed Pogo. He knows that.
Yes.
She, tried to destroy the world.
Right.
And so but he also feels guilty because he deceived her. And he did the thing where he was like, "Oh, look, we're all good," and then he put her in the bear hug in season 1, and then stuck her in a cell, which was back to her childhood, and she ended up having to break out of it. But so he doesn't realize that Vanya has amnesia, so he's kind of like, if I go and talk to her, will she just try to kill me?
Yes. It's funny though. I had forgotten. Well, I didn't fully appreciate that she had amnesia. So when he sees her on the street, I assume that she just sees him and says, well, I'll just go about my business. Yeah.
Which is probably what he was thinking, like, geez.
Yeah.
She just she ghosted me.
Yeah.
I like that he brings a pistol. I'm like, is that going to do the job? Well, I don't know. But maybe. I don't know.
He's got to have something.
Yeah.
Maybe it's like, oh, she's looking the other way. Blam.
He talks to her. He quickly realizes she doesn't remember him.
Not so quickly. Because he keeps saying, you better be telling the truth. Like, what did you do?
Oh, good point.
So he really had to sort of convince him, and he had to, work through his feelings as he. So if you're really, that's fine. If you need to just be away.
But, and like in some ways the pressure gets off, is what I was kind of saying. Like, do I need to kill her? Like, that kind of quickly gets resolved in terms of,
playing out, and she, did not appear to. She certainly does not acting like she could pose a threat to him.
Right.
And for her, the most desperate thing is, what did I do? So she's willing to accept that because she doesn't have any knowledge of her past. So she's like, what did I do that was so wrong? What did you do to me? And she wasn't even afraid at that point.
That was the moment that I was like, really, that I thought was really interesting, when she goes, what did you do to me? Like, in other words, she's putting it together.
Yeah.
Wait, I have amnesia. Something happened to me. Here I have this guy shows up. Like,
well, she's basing on what he says, because he's saying he's talking about his own guilt.
Like, are you responsible for my amnesia? Like, anyway, so it was a very interesting counterplay. There was a lot of emotional shifts happening moment to moment.
Yeah, I think it's unfortunate
and I thought it was well played.
That we're not going to see more. I mean, it doesn't feel like we're going to see more between them. I mean, I kind of would like them to reestablish a relationship. It'd just be nice to have her, because certainly throughout most of the first season she wasn't connected to them, and then when she finally was, it was in opposition.
Right.
And so it'd be. Hopefully, it's not.
Yeah. What do you think? So we see her in the very beginning. She is on the team.
Right. True.
So she is helping them.
Yeah.
At some
point. Yeah. At some point in the next couple of weeks, they do come together, and Allison decides to use her powers. Yes,
demonstrably. I mean,
and asshole Klaus discovers, how more for his powers would be a threat as opposed to just ways for him to make money or scare people.
Yeah, so we both, I think, are in agreement that, like, the first half of season 1, Klaus annoyed me anyway. I don't want to talk for Paul, but he annoyed me.
I told you I saw him in another show where he annoyed me.
But his arc was actually pretty cool in season 1.
Yeah,
so now I'm on board with Klaus, and he's still flamboyant. He's still like over the top, but in a way that's not so annoying. And
not so annoying. Yes.
And he has grounded a little bit by, he did have that, very serious relationship.
Yes.
He fought in the Vietnam War, which that would be years after this, but he somewhere if he hung around long enough, he could see himself fighting in Vietnam. It was Klaus's trip to Vietnam, fighting that horrific battle, having this very strong bond with the fellow soldier that ended up dying, I believe. And so I think that's what grounded him and made him a much more believable character.
Yes.
Good on Klaus.
Good on Klaus.
Those are the points that I was going to cover. So we assume then that, against all odds, the group will find their way to work together, find a way to be a team.
That's right.
And stop the apocalypse yet again. I think this is the last season they can do that, right? If they did season 3.
I mean, it'd be nice if, so much of the series is them just trying to accept the fact that, or at least working against each other to ultimately come together, but they're far too willing to sort of ice each other.
Yes.
So it's nice to see them working together, and I would like them to take on the commission. It does not seem like they're barely. The only person who's aware of them is Five, and he's just concerned about Earth. So he thinks if he just takes care of these apocalypses, I don't think he has an agenda beyond that. So it'd be nice.
I agree.
If I think that'd be a cool name. Season 3, Umbrella Academy versus the Commission. That's
I'm good with that. Yeah. So, like, in other words, it's a continuation of season 1 that the apocalypse was only moved up several years. Yeah. Then they avert it.
Yep.
Apocalypse is not happening now, and what's next? Yeah. So, in any case, the show is fascinating. It is easy to watch. It's an easy watch, and I like the characters. I like the dysfunctional family aspect of it, and so thumbs up. Yep. We'll be back talking about episodes 3 and 4 in the near future. Thank you, Paul. I appreciate it, sir.
Thank you, man.
Have a good one, everybody. Bye.
Bye.